So I've now met everyone. I know everyone in the room, and I've met Morgan for the first time, which is terrific. Don't know if everyone yet has met David Mongeau, who's the project director for Translational Data Analytics. This is the second of a series of town halls that TDA is having throughout the university. I'm just really curious, I think initially, what drew you here aside from the Panera? What sorts of things were you hoping to gain or to learn today, or what sort of questions you wanted to have answered, or just curious, what the heck is TDA? Or
I'm Jeffrey Hayes in the Department of Design, and I'm here for a couple of reasons. I'm on the committee of Arts and Memorial selection for the university, and have been on it for a bazillion years, it feels like, and it's always exciting. And this project is in our barrel right now of selecting artists and things, and so I was privy to seeing some of the drawings of what was going on, and as an architect and designer, I'm curious about the new work that goes on here, and especially this project. And so I just wanted to sort of hear a little bit more. In the Department of Design, I think we have we were just through a search with the MRP program, moving image productions for the new curriculum. So we've been having those kinds of discussions as well, and that person will be housed partially in this, or be working and teaching sort of through some of this data analytics as well, with visualization. David and I are working on a research grant together for a large data visualization installation. So I'm connected both sort of directly and loosely with what's going on in this, and interested in what's happening over with this new program and this new department and new building and the things of that sort. So I'm just here to continue to get more information and be more active on this. Great.
Yeah, I'm Harmony in the Department of Dance. I'm here because I'm really interested in digital humanities, and that's a term that my work has taken, and I'm interested in conceptualizing translational data analytics for the university. I'm interested in how that is being conceived, how it is something that is university-wide and interdisciplinary, and just wanting to make sure that both the arts and the humanities are well represented in that conversation. Whenever we talk about data, particularly big data, it tends to focus on primarily scientific applications, and I know that like a lot of the language that has come out from the university really has had that intention behind it, and so I'm just interested and invested in it having just being part of a larger conversation.
I'm Hannah Costrian in the Department of Dance, and digital humanities is also part of my work, and I'm trying to sort of figure out my relationship to it. And so I'm here really just to kind of hear about how translational data analytics is working on campus. I really am kind of at the very beginning of this in my knowledge discussion, and it's my second year on faculty, so I'm also kind of trying to figure out more of the workings of the university now that things after last year kind of landed, and I have kind of capacity to think outside of my own office. So.
excellent.
My name is Morgan Liu. I'm in the Department of Anthropology and Near Eastern Languages and Cultures, so social science and humanities. I think I'm maybe a little unusual that I'm a cultural anthropologist. I had a formal life as a software engineer. So I worked for what was then the second largest computer company after I majored in mathematics at MIT.
What was the second largest company?
That was Digital Equipment Corporation,
sure.
which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
but,
right.
but back then, it was the big deal.
In the day.
In the day. A lot of the younger generations of engineers have never heard of them, so maybe this audience will. But I'm coming here because I think it really brings together the different halves of my life. Specifically, I'm starting a new research project looking at corruption and abuses of power, especially in the energy sector. I work in Central Asia and in the Muslim areas of the former Soviet Union, and so I'm looking to use more than just ethnographic methods, or bringing ethnographic on the ground research with some of the approaches that we might be talking about here. I have another reason for being interested in this, is sort of the reverse angle. There is a trend in anthropology to be looking at different areas of science as areas of inquiry, to look at, in other words, what scientists do, what people in finance do, and what people in analytics are doing as a cultural activity itself that needs to be analyzed from that perspective. So from both angles, I'm quite interested in this.
I'm next.
Please.
I'm Brian Joseph from the Linguistics Department at the Joint Department in the Slavic and Eastern European Languages and Cultures Department. I have research interests that begin to touch on my understanding of data analytics. I guess I'm curious where data analytics, TDA, is going in the university. It's been in the news for the last few years, but I think it's still somewhat amorphous and vague for those of us who are outside. I have a sort of personal interest in that. The linguistics department was moved out of Oxley Hall as part of the renovation of Pomerene and Oxley, and so I'm curious what our neighbors are going to be like when we ever get back in there. So I'm especially interested in point 4. But I have have 2 research projects that involve, if not big data, at least a lot of data. One of them is a digital humanities or computational humanities project looking at the names of tribes and peoples in ancient times, trying to sort of establish a catalog of all of the peoples that have been mentioned, starting with classical, Western classical sources. But ultimately, there's no end to it until we cover the Earth. So there will be big data in that sense. And looking at networks amongst the interactions amongst these peoples and so forth would provide I think a suitable chunk of data to work on. And I also have a project teamed up with an ecologist, a hydrologist from the environment and I can't remember the exact name right now, agriculture and environmental science. Looking at the effects on language of the changes in the physical environment, especially changes in ground cover and how terminology about the environment may have changed in the light of these physical environmental changes. Lithuania is a small country, but there's a lot of terms for river-related words and such, so that there's actually a fair bit of data there to draw on. But basically, I'm interested. I mean, I've been at the university for 37 years. I'm interested in the way the university develops, and this was sort of presented to us almost like out of Zeus's head, as it were. And so I want to see how it goes. I want it to turn out to be the best program it can be.
My name is Elizabeth Bond. I am assistant professor in the history department and the TDA affiliate. My own interest in digital humanities is connected to my current research project. I'm interested in network analysis, some topic modeling. My research question is really concerned with the formation of public opinion in the context of 18th century France, 2 decades preceding the French Revolution. So I'm interested in how information is traveling, how people are using print in particular to communicate from place to place, how discourse is evolving or not. Can we see the revolution coming before it happens, these kinds of things. And so I'm here today just to meet other interested faculty and to continue to understand more about OSU and about TDA in particular.
And
I'm Rebecca Momini. I'm one of the project coordinators for TDA, so various emails that you may have received or, coordination of this meeting. Yeah, I work directly again with David and Jenna.
So I'm Jenna McGuire, I'm the other project coordinator. This fun little project called Palm Rain Hall behind you, I'm actually helping to lead that. So if you have questions afterwards, happy to answer them.
And I'm David Macho, as David mentioned, the program director for Translational Data Analytics at Ohio State. So it really helped me to hear where people were coming from, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself too and where I was coming from. I was looking forward to this town hall meeting in particular because my academic roots are in humanities. So I studied English. I started out as a creative writing major, and then, at the time when personal computers were really starting to make a promise to be this great thing in business, primarily, not even the home at the time. And suddenly it was, oh my goodness, we have this technology, but we have issues of communicating about it. So there was actually a time where technical writing programs started to come about, and that's a direction I went when I succumbed to the pressure of my family continuing to say, how are you going to earn money as a poet? How are you going to earn money as a poet? So, and I had the pleasure of going to Bell Laboratories, which hired a large group of English, linguistics, cognitive psychology majors to get around this whole issue of communicating about technology. So how, if we're going to introduce technologies to the home and to business, there's this hurdle that people have to get over, and what's the method at the time of teaching and imparting knowledge was the written word. So there was all this effort and put into computer manuals, and believe it or not, which today I sometimes don't believe it when I open a manual for a new electronic device at home. There was so much effort put in at Bell Laboratories to understand everything from where should you put the staples in the box to opening the new device, and when you pull out that manual, what sort of color should be there, what typeface. One of the original projects I did is, are serif or non-serif types the easiest to process, and then how should you use them on the page and things. So it was a lot of fun, and I think what it did for me, it showed me the value of transdisciplinary work, because I was with engineers, as I mentioned, with linguists, and cognitive psychologists were some people I really enjoyed learning from. And that sort of focus then stuck with me, realizing that I had studied in the humanities, but I had a lot of value to offer in the technology world, and I've stayed in the technology world for a long time. In some ways, then, I see I can make a comparison, I'll just call it a comparison, that at the time when we were trying to make technology accessible, we had to rely on language and people's understanding of how we think and process. And now I see the whole digital humanities world as there's so much more to learn in our pursuits in the arts and humanities, and digital technology can help us get there. So to me, again, it's another marrying of that. And when the opportunity came up to come to the university to work with a faculty lead at something as ambitious as translational data analytics, I really felt fortunate to get into the academic world, which is something that I wanted to do. So to begin to answer some of the questions and some of the interests around, so what is TDA? And I do understand a comment that was made that this maybe before I was here just sort of happened. And the story I can tell as I understand it, data analytics within the realm of discovery themes in total, I think people know that the source of funding that has allowed this came from the campus parking, outsourcing of the parking. And my understanding is that there were quite a few meetings, perhaps primarily of administration, maybe I don't know the full inclusion of all the faculty, around where should our big investment spaces be to solve problems in the next decades. And you know what, I might stand up instead of sitting all the time.
And part of the view was that the university has a lot to offer in the three areas described here, where food production and security is certainly emerging as one of the big topics. We hear about that from President Drake, for example. But also in energy and the environment, we had a lot to contribute in the area of material sustainability and in health and wellness, infectious diseases. These were some of the areas that the university said, we have enough depth, we have enough resources that we should build further on these strengths. But to solve the problems in these areas, there was a recognition that the big problems in these spaces could be better solved by using and taking advantage of the big data, of the digital technologies that were available to help solve that. So right now, TDA at Ohio State is a program. It's an initiative with the intent that it will become a cross-university institute. We hope that we will get through that process by June of next year. And right now, we have around 65 affiliates representing 30 disciplines. The affiliates come from across the colleges. I think we said that 11 colleges and 27 TIUs are represented. And I will acknowledge, though, to a point that was made earlier, there's probably a predominance in the mix of faculty right now. There's a predominance of people in the physical and natural sciences, in engineering, medicine, and arts and humanities. Arts and sciences is very well represented. Arts and humanities to a lesser degree. And we actually have two faculty board members here, both from history. And we do, I think, maybe people know there are still openings. There's the 4 digital humanities openings, and there is an opening in the English department. So we also have, you met some members of the program team, and I'll talk a little bit further along about some of the faculty in residence. You can see the size of the investment overall. That investment of $500 million is in all these areas. The investment in data analytics is, depending on how you count it, and including the building, is somewhere between 150 and 200 million. So maybe what the intent is to make part of what we're trying to do at the university, and this is to make sure that we do something distinctive in data analytics. I was mentioning to Morgan earlier that many other universities are making big investments like this. Michigan, Columbia, the University of the North Carolina system, the California system. There are other large investments. And when I got here about a year and a couple months ago, we had conversations about, well, what are we going to do with the data analytics, at the time it was called the Data Analytics Collaborative, to take the proposals that were submitted by faculty about where we should be investing in data analytics and what problems we should be solving. How do we take that information, and also recognize what are the strengths of the university and also the land-grant mission. And that started to lead to this idea of translational, that we thought one of the places, or one of the best approaches for us is to think about how we apply our analytics and data science know-how to solve real-world problems. And while we know that we can contribute to the underlying methods and theories in data science, for example, that part of that contribution can come from the application, trying to work with external partners or other academic institutions to solve some problems. Within the digital humanities space, we heard about some of these problems already. So Brian mentioned, I think it was basically a data mining effort that is trying to identify these different groups and tribes. And certainly text analytics and data mining is used within the realm of digital humanities to identify the sources of various, when did a certain concept start coming into the vernacular. And I saw that there's a very interesting project going on that tries, again, to me, the digital humanities space is translational, but is also very transdisciplinary, where there's research in progress to look at the Enlightenment and think about you need to understand how ideas, this could also relate to what you mentioned, Elizabeth, how ideas flowed and who became aware of the ideas. So there's a whole study going on of the letters of Voltaire, for example, to say what happened, where did those letters go to. So they're looking at geography, the topology of the countries that affected the translation about it. The political scientists are involved, philosophers are involved. So it's really a great idea of this transdisciplinary nature. And that's what we think at Ohio State. If we keep coming back and almost banging on that drum, that is what's going to make our venture into data, to analytics and data science stand out. Because we are focused on the use and we're focused on do we have the right people at the table. An example of getting the right people at the table is what happens in the year I've been here, I've seen this happen, that at a university this large, if we have somebody approach us from the outside, they go to who they know. And often within the university, we want to help respond and solve the problem. So we had a case of a pharmaceutical or a health products company that knew people in the business college. And they came with their problem about that they're trying to solve that relates to their nutrition products. Well, by trying to take this position and fill the mission of TDA, when I was at the table and started hearing the problem, I said, well, wait, yes, the folks in business have the operations research background and the understanding of manufacturing processes. But don't we need, based on what they're trying to do here and how they're trying to understand the problem and the amount of data they have, we really need somebody who knows data visualization. We need somebody who can hear about what the people on the line are trying to see and find better ways of visualizing them. So we were able to bring people with that expertise to the table. We also said, well, this is liquid material. Don't we need some material scientists at the table, some food scientists at the table? So by the time this one project that started out, company goes to business college says, yes, we can do this project for you. We've been able to bring statistics to the table, food sciences to the table, some data visualization folks to the table along with business. And I think that's the kind of example where we keep pushing ourselves to always say, who do we have at the table? I think one of the good examples that plays out too between Fisher and arts and sciences is many companies believe that an understanding of consumer behavior and social media trends is over at Fisher. And so translational data analytics is able to keep saying, wait, there's this whole communications department over in arts and sciences, and this is where people are spending a lot of time and have interesting research going on in this space. So that's part of the charge of the program team, to constantly be making sure as we represent the university and its wealth of data assets and capabilities, that we're always making sure we're being as inclusive as possible. Just before we move off this slide, then in that analysis or around the discovery themes about where should we focus, and then in the proposals that came into faculty about what sort of data problems we should go after, the top three here are what came out of the original plan. So digital humanities, precision agriculture, and health and wellness, or systems for health and wellness. And we are just now starting with precision ag and with health and wellness to define what does that mean. And I will like when we get to a point where we actually have a transdisciplinary research strategy defined in these areas, because for the first year I'm here, I'm getting away with talking to people and saying our focus areas are precision ag and digital humanities, and then when they say, well, what are you doing in those spaces? And they say, well, we have some great ideas. Well, what are those ideas? So we get into the point of trying to work out the actual research agenda. Why I'm hammering on this, back to the point of transdisciplinary, is I'm going to take precision ag as the example. There's an awful lot going on in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences already, but it's being done within that college. So we're talking to Scott Shearer, who's one of the faculty affiliates, and saying, if you start thinking about who else at the university, what other disciplines could come to the table. What are problems that you could address that you're not addressing now? A good example then would be, we just made a connection this week where Scott's saying, okay, if so much of our data comes from sensors, we need engineering at the table, the sensor networks people at the table. Then we met with Dennis Hirsch from the law school. He's another faculty hire into TDA. Dennis looks at the issues of data privacy and cybersecurity, and also fairness and discrimination in the use of data. So having that perspective at the table when we're talking about the problem that Scott's looking at is how to get farmers to share data and not, independent farmers to share data and not feel that they're losing an important asset. So now you have other perspectives at the table. And once I think more of the digital humanities will be getting to that point, actually I don't think for several months, where we would start saying, okay, who can come together and start putting together the research agenda here. It would be good if some more of the digital humanities openings were filled. And I know we've had several interviews going on in that space. Overall, the mission is what you might expect to see in a mission, but it is directionally where we want to be, and that is solving some the issues of global importance and the importance of partnering and external. External does not just mean corporate. It means not-for-profits, it means other academic institutions. There's some really interesting work that's done by a group, the University Industry Development Partnership. And they have research working with a third party that does Elsevier. Some folks here may have heard of them. And, okay, well, maybe some people don't like them or something, but anyway, they've been able to show that the impact and the number of citations, how work is picked up and cited, when it comes out of one institution versus it comes out of two institutions working together versus it involves two institutions and some sort of private sector partner. And the number of citations just goes up when you're collaborating external to the academic institutions. So that's some also of why we keep thinking about the external community. A big item, of course, down here, expanding the workforce capable of delivering translational data analytics. Last year, in 2015, just companies that came to TDA directly to speak, we had 41 companies approach what's going on, and their major ask was about talent. While many want to consider research that we can do together, predominantly it's about the talent. So part of the overall program is focused on academics, and I'll say a bit more about that as we move on.
Talent students.
Both. So I would say talent students is number one, and then talent faculty would be within that research space number two. With such a big investment being made, it was really necessary as good resource stories that we put together some kind of plan around this. We can't, in terms of what are the long-term goals, and we'll get to that at the end. But we do have a plan about how we wanted to go about building out the Institute. And last year in 2015, we were really focused in the design phase. We were trying to increase awareness and engagement. Obviously today, and part of the purpose of these town meetings, working with the advisory board members, is despite the efforts made by the team to communicate what's going on and what is TDA, and we use all the conventional vehicles, we have a new website, we have newsletters, we do all these ways to reach out, we do this town hall, it's still difficult for people to know what's going on and maybe to understand what's going on. And in a minute, I'll stop to find out if you're understanding what I'm saying is going on. So we finished in the 2015, just to give you an idea. So in 2015, we began just the faculty director for this effort, Philip Payne, and then I was brought in as the program director, and part of that design, back to the mission and so on, was wouldn't it be a useful experiment and maybe a good idea all around if we paired a faculty member with somebody from the private sector to help in each of these key investment areas in the university? So that's how I got involved working with Philip. Since then, we have about 3 staff members. You met 2 of them, Jenna and Rebecca. We have a communications specialist, and this year we'll be adding some postdocs focused in the research areas, starting with precision ag and population health. Actually, I put up health and wellness, very broad term. That's getting narrowed down to your population health, probably studying issues of infant mortality and within the state of Ohio. We would be doing the same, once the digital humanities team comes together to define the research agenda here, we would have a postdoc to support that. So growing some of our capabilities, there were 21 new hires in 2015. We are now up to 27 new hires. The predominance of those are in arts and sciences. So there are more hires in arts and sciences than any other college. Now we're moving into this build phase. In the course of the last couple weeks, we're focusing on what are some of the things that we want to do. But here we're really trying to build our capacity. That's why things like postdocs, bringing on a proposal specialist to help go after some large proposals in this space. You know, the building is that thing of there's the good side and there's the bad side. The good side is how many people have this wonderful opportunity not only to say we're going to focus on research and scholarship in this area of analytics, but we're also getting a building. The bad part is we're getting a building. We have to figure out how to pay for it after it opens, because the money that's invested simply builds it. We don't have any money to operate it. So there's a big development fundraising discussion going on. And I'm exaggerating a bit in terms of no money to fund it. So we can go to the next slide. I started to hit on some of this already, some of the progress over the past year. And I just want to talk about right here, the faculty-led initiatives. One of the efforts last year, Dorinda Gallant from College of Education and Human Ecology, and Raghu Makaraju from Computer Science, have joined TDA as faculty in residence, and they have been doing a survey of all analytics and data science training across all departments across the university, so that we can get a handle of what's going on in terms of teaching in these spaces. And people are familiar, I think, with the undergraduate program in data analytics. The university certainly has pushed and promoted the fact that it was the first program, interdisciplinary program like that at a large research university. And there are multiple graduate level tracks that relate to analytics, but we're just trying to be able to tell the whole story about where data science and analytics apply across all disciplines and where are those courses. We're certainly finding cases of where individual disciplines said, I need my students to know, or we need our students to know data analytics in this way, and have designed a course very specific to their student body. Maybe making some of those courses available and known outside the departments would be useful. But this scan of what's going on at the university, it's also a benchmarking of what's going on at other universities, will be done and available in May. And that is meant to inform what additional academics are designed going forward. Something that helps stimulate that relates to the arts and the humanities is one of the hot topics in a lot of the academic programming is data visualization. And I see another nice outcome here in that design and computer science and art got together and are proposing a new visualization track for the undergraduate major. The perspective of design has really changed sort of what probably would have been less ambitious idea about what this undergraduate track could look like, because maybe some of the go-to around visualization would have just been data curation. You know, data curation is an important aspect,
Right.
but there's other pieces to that that have to be brought into the mix, so that's what they're let me pause there for a minute and see if there are any questions, if people are learning the kinds of things they want to hear, or if there's, if I'm not getting to points that you care about.
It's very, very interesting and very enlightening, thank you. I think that some of the lack of understanding may come from just the structure of the thing. I mean, we know about departments, we know about institutes, we know about schools, we know about colleges, but this is it an institute or whatever? You say it's an initiative. An initiative is, I'm involved in a South Asian Studies initiative, and it's sort of an amorphous kind of thing. Yours, this is, we have like 10 faculty involved, and this is like, 100 or so. So it's a much wider thing, and it cuts across so many conventional units and ways in which we think about the structure of the university. So that, I think that's part of it. This has been very enlightening. I guess I'm wondering, how does one become an affiliate?
Right.
To be totally selfish about it. How does one become an affiliate? And I know that I have colleagues in linguistics who deal with big data, lots of phonetics and so forth. How does one get on board?
We're doing another round of how to manage the affiliate. So I'll just be totally open. There was this battle. Do we just say? There was one idea, was take the original faculty, the 600 faculty whose names appeared on the original proposals for the data analytics investments, and just say all 600 people are affiliates. The other camp, and I have to admit, I was more in this camp about, well, wait, maybe we start small, and because in a large endeavor like this, you really want people who are going to want to contribute and get involved. So what if we began a little bit smaller, and let's use some equity to make sure there's a spread across the colleges. Let's get the input of the deans about maybe who to invite. Let's look at publications, citations, these sorts of things. And that led to some of the initial invites. Right now, it's almost weekly that I'm writing down a name saying, well, an example would be Harvey Miller. I don't know if you know him out of geography and GIS, and I'm saying, why isn't he an affiliate? This is, thank you, Brian, for bringing it up, and I think we need to fix that and do more of an invite for people to join. We can do that. To the question about this cross-cutting initiative, I agree. That's why we're trying to get to the point that it is an institute. The vision is that it will be an institute, which is what we understand.
Yeah. David, a question? I'm wondering, this is a broad base of potential faculty who might be affiliated, 600 plus, and probably more that you haven't identified. But what also, to what extent do you see the mission at this stage of this institute as to getting more visibility and buy-in from faculty who maybe are not at the moment identify themselves as connected with this, with the idea of maybe some faculty are on the cusp of being willing to adopt some of these methods as part of their research, and or who are already doing some things but haven't really thought of themselves as such, but they said, well, actually, maybe I have something in common with those other guys doing that stuff. And in other words, doing something public to the university to get the word out. And I'm thinking one possibility is a series of workshops that would be open to graduate students, faculty, maybe undergraduates even, and that are not courses in the traditional sense, but are sort of getting everyone in at least at some base level of understanding of what the exciting possibilities are for different areas of application, of translation. In other words, I think one of the things I find endemic in academia is that we all are experts in our own silos, and it seems difficult and embarrassing to admit, I don't have even the basic training in something that a lot of other people are, and I'm not sure how to get it. And to be able to create this sort of baseline of expertise at a high level, but not assuming anything particular, and bringing sort of the community up to a certain level, that might be one way of creating more visibility for this initiative.
Just to build on that, one of the things that seems to be the case, and I'll just own it as my own perception, is that there seems to be a lot of effort to go outside the university, find the expertise outside and bring it in through hires, et cetera. And so can we, like Morgan is suggesting, also invest in the faculty we have? Like, wow, there are 4 hires in digital humanities? That's fantastic. You know, I think I maybe knew about 1 or 2, but there are also a lot of people who are either at the cusp of doing this kind of work at this university already, or, you know, are maybe in the middle of doing this kind of work. So is there a way that TDA could support within departmental structures and pull that out and heighten that, rather than just, you know, bringing expertise in from the outside to fill in a gap, recognize the work that happens across the board here, and support that a little bit more?
Yeah, I would say that what Hannah and Morgan are bringing up is the teeth that have to happen in order to make this thing really bite. And that has to do with incentive and finding incentive to work across. Not necessarily being reward, but sometimes it's a matter of creating a collaborative that allows for release, so that you as someone working in a department can go after some things that you're wanting to work on, go after some research, try to build some of the collaborative through allowing some release or some compensation, not money, but just time, et cetera, in order to kind of pursue some of these activities that go across, because they take usually personal time, and they're interesting and exciting, and it's the passion that allows us to do that. But often it's while we're trying to sort of break down barriers, or we're trying to sort of hold something together with glue and some Band-Aids while we're trying to go after something passionate. And so it always seems to be sort of tugging on us, whereas if it has a program, you can have a sticker on your door that says, I'm an affiliate. That means I don't know what yet. I think that was a great question. What is it a big sticker? And with that means that once a year for a semester, you're invested into a collaborative, where it's a workshop, where it's with some people that have these different expertise, and you are assigned and provided, you know, and encouraged to have opportunities to really work and get at some of the questions. Because as a designer, a lot of the collaborate isn't about coming up with a question first and then going and finding the people involved. It's getting really interesting people at a table and figuring out what the questions are. And to me, data analytics is about, we're thinking about how they provide opportunities for new questions that we don't know about yet, because we haven't brought the diverse enough people, because we're all too embarrassed to kind of know how Hannah and I can like solve big giant problems outside of dance and design. But I think having people like this at the table provide that opportunity to see where questions are. And I think that goes back to the original initiative, is solving these big questions, using big data to do that, whether it's representing and visualizing it, so now we all see where that question was and it was buried, or coming up with ideas of how it connects to outside of here, whether it's corporations or startups or stuff like that. And that, to me, sounds like something really interesting.
I'm sorry, you were going to say something? Or no?
No, I was going to respond to some, but please go.
This is a suggestion, and it sort of plays off of what Morgan was saying about the workshop, and I can't remember. Jet was saying about getting the word out. I was at a computational humanities seminar at Dagstuhl in Germany 2 years ago. It was fantastic. And they did this thing where the 40 of us who were there, we had 3 minutes. We had to give 3-minute presentations about what we were doing. That's very, very hard, I mean, enormously hard, particularly if they keep to the time. Everyone, it was more like 5 minutes, but you're told to do 3 minutes. And And I think that might be a way of just getting information in front of people very quickly, so you begin to see the diversity of what's already here. I like the point that you were making about incentivizing somehow the work that's already going on here instead of saying we have to look outside. There was some initiative within arts and humanities that they said, oh, well, we have some discovery theme money that will allow us to go and see what's going on elsewhere. And someone responded to that, I think on some sort of social media or email or something, saying, they're giving money for us to look elsewhere when there's all kinds of great stuff going on right here at the university. It seemed almost insulting, really, though it wasn't intended that way. So something that would allow for sort of rapid dissemination of, like, as I say, these 5-minute, there's a Japanese term for them, because these 3-minute things are...
Chaka-cha.
Yeah, and maybe something like that, in an hour and a half, get a lot of information out.
So I'd like to respond in two ways. One is to say some of the things that are already being done that I think get to engaging the existing expertise and excellence at the university. So to begin there, we do have some mechanisms. I mentioned the faculty and residents, and they get release time. So those 2 faculty members are on formal funded appointments with TDA. So there is funding that's been committed for that sort of thing. We have 2 faculty who will have funded appointments of about 25% to oversee the development of the data commons, which I hope we get to talk about a little bit. That is one way of trying to give existing faculty specific opportunity here. In terms of convening and pulling faculty together, that goes back to this, we have made efforts in that regard. We obviously need to improve broaden communications, but we've had research and progress seminars going on for a while, which are opportunities for faculty to say, this is a problem I'm working on right now, and I am wondering about others who might have ideas to help me advance this effort. The 3-minute talk for affiliates, what we've just offered is to fund a development of a video cast, so a podcast which would be available on the website. So, and to your idea that they would get TEDx type training to how to give my message in a short, wonderful way. And these, then we started thinking about how this project could build. And so we have the affiliates sign up, and then they talk about their research, and we put these videos out on our website. But then what if we then had some sort of network mapping that relates what's going on? So, that would be a great natural language processing project for a group of students to take all these videos and say, how does this stuff relate? And then you're able to get messages back to the faculty. So we're pursuing some of these efforts. The second thing to say is it's a fact, and that the investment in the hiring of new faculty is a larger investment than is in discovery themes than is directly in existing faculty. That is not a TDA item to solve. It's a fact, a university fact,
and it's totally understandable, given the costs involved with outside hires in many of the areas that are involved. But I don't think you need to apologize for it.
Yeah, but so what I am bringing up is the building too is designed to create these convening spaces where you get people in. So we have a whole ideation space, and what we're hoping is it plays out like the Research Commons. I don't know if people have been in the Research Commons in the 18th Street Library, but that this will be the place that people just know, I don't know the question to ask. I know there's something going on here, that you'd be able to approach the TDA office and say, this is what I'm trying to do, who at the university, so a lot of what we view our goal is understanding what's going on in all the pockets of the university, so that we could then say to Jeff, you know who you probably want to talk to and get at the table are these people. Some of the other material support for existing faculty is we do have budget co-sponsor events, and we have cases of that right now where we've been co-sponsoring. Well, there's a moral algorithms conference on April the 18th. We're co-sponsoring that. There's a visit from Kristen Toll on April 19th. She is the data science lead at Microsoft Research. And we've also sponsoring student events. So we sponsored the hackathon, the Data Fest that's coming up in April. And so there are some investments, but I hear what you're saying about continuing to seek these ways of bringing people together.
Can you talk more about the aspirations to be an institute? Because part of what I'm hearing is, and maybe it's a sort of particular concern, I think, maybe from the arts, but certainly from the humanities perspective, about incentives and rewards. So to engage in the sort of collaborative work that you're describing isn't necessarily a plus in the department that I come from, let's say. Although we can talk about it as a plus, certainly. When push comes to shove, tenure and promotion is determined by the TIUs.
Right.
And which I think, depending on the department, obviously, have a different set of assumptions about what engaged or effective work looks like. To what degree would the sort of status as an institute play in sort of facilitating and incentivizing, rewarding this sort of work among faculty? Make sense? Or?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. There's so if we go back to not just the institute, but the first thing about the university, there's certainly what I understand from the push behind the whole message of discovery themes and the push for cross-disciplinary collaboration. Kay Wolf, there is this effort to revisit tenure and promotion guidelines. And I don't gonna like say at the university year, I'm sure there are people here sitting that they're gonna redo the tenure and faculty guidelines every year. So, but what I know is that this topic of how do we incentivize this does seem to be a dominant conversation among Kay Wolf and Office of Academic Affairs.
Yeah. Jeff's right, there's a lot of passion, I think, there's a lot of interest in this, but there's a practical reality.
No one gets a job in academia without being pathetically passionate. I mean, they just don't. I mean, honestly, I don't know of one person. I know people who've lost passion over the years, but we sort of strong arm. But boy, you know, when you come in and when you're involved in work with the students and with the interests that you have, it's not driven by finance. It's driven by hard knock principles and passion, and those are great things because they make a lot of really interesting stuff happen here. It's just sometimes there just seems to be gates, and I'm not saying this to complain. I like pounding down gates. It's sort of fun. but I do think of a large institute and what the topics are that we're talking about that will be sort of housed or have the potential here are just enormous and huge, and not just because it's big data, but just in the sense of what it can provide for almost anyone doing research, of just how to have collaborative opportunities across these disciplines through this data in order to make your own work better, in order to provide efforts to other people's work. And I think that just seems like what the university has been talking about for a long time and has tried to work in a lot of ways, and some of it has, but some of it has not. Some of it has not been so successful. And I think what you were talking about, David, is probably at some of the heart of where the passion of collaborating kind of dissolves for a while till you get past your P&T kind of markers, because the first marker of tenure, you know, you go at it collaboratively and you very quickly just pull and you can't, no one else is on your calendar, you're on your calendar, and so the only way to solve it, honestly, is, at least the way it's being rewarded and incentive, is like, pull in and just kind of get your head down and do your own thing. And the opportunity to find out and to be able to legitimize that kind of stuff would be very powerful here, I think, to young professors that are coming on board.
So, back to maybe then going to the institute status, certainly we're, as an institute, the expectation is we would be able to articulate and draw more funding, which could then be directed, because when you're using words incentive and reward, it is coming down to money, right? It's just coming down to, because even if it's for release time and it's not money in your pocket, it's money to make this possible. So the university is investing so much, and with the program budget we have, we're looking right now at how much more can we direct to existing faculty. So I mentioned the sponsorships. We blew the sponsorship budget like the first week of the new year. Well, I had no idea how many requests for sponsorship we would get. So we started to say, well, we want to support existing faculty that are trying to host conferences and bring in, get interesting dialogues going on. So what can we do to maybe redirect more money to that line? So with the funding that we have, we're looking at that. But a big part I went back to, is the development effort. You and I were at a meeting this week where we saw one of the advancement people who work with foundations like sit up in her seat and get excited because she thought, wait, there's where I can help you bring in money. If you have artists in residence within Pomeranian who are getting involved in digital, the kinds of things we're talking about, using data to drive art, whether it's displays, how many was at the meeting too, and that's where can we bring in that sort of funding. So I can recognize a commitment that all the discovery teams had a review with the provost, with Bruce McFerrin, and we pushed for TDA. The issue that we pushed is the financial issue. We need the support from advancement foundations, corporate and private donors to get the money for this building and to get the money to support the faculty in the building. Bruce McFerrin committed to talk to Mike Eicher about saying, how are we going to make this happen? Because the way fundraising happens at the university is back to the silos, right? It's by the departments and the deans set the agenda. This is a cross-college institute. How are we going to raise the money for it? So there's this idea of double crediting. So any college that helps get money that goes to TDA, the college gets the credit, TDA gets money. It's a long haul. I think that's probably one of the major challenges right now
Is there a big data football question that can be answered, and we can get a sticker for Irvin's door that says, I'm part of TDA, they're doing analytics for me?
I'll give him a call right after this.
I'll bet
He'll
you.
pick up when he sees who.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure there's an analytical project that can be discovered.
It's true.
In
Sports
sports
are
and
getting
football.
into
Oh
big
my
data.
gosh,
They
they're
absolutely
huge.
are.
Well,
Remember the movie
that is.
Moneyball?
Oh,
About
yeah,
the
absolutely.
Oakland?
No, I think there's an avenue that's if it's not a pipeline to huge money, it's pipeline to big, medium, large, right?
But also attention.
It's
Yeah,
attention.
and attention,
Attention.
exactly,
It's
and that's
attention.
always interesting.
The undergraduate major folks that are running the undergrad program for data analytics, the concentration most requested by students and parents is sports analytics.
Yeah.
So there is talk about putting
Does that
sports
mean
analytics.
stats or does that mean motion analytics?
Good question, and why I think dance, just like design came to the table to change the view of what is visualization, perhaps, and if we're gonna look at sports analytics, motion analytics, that's.
I mean, I know when I go to the gym, like they bisect and dissect every person running and they're like, do you see how he turned to the left just at the last moment, you know? I know that it's a thing outside of dance.
Yeah.
And sports are, you know, that is.
But it's a great
Exactly.
question, and I guess why I brought up the example of design, what was so encouraging to me about that, in some ways, there wasn't a huge incentive, I don't think, for the art and design department to push on this, but those folks were passionate about it, and they came to the table and worked with computer science to make this proposal. And so some of that, we cannot make the connections, and then is there people that actually want to follow through. So I will mention that point to the undergrad folks.
If the footballers also wanna come take my ballet class, I'm totally into that.
Or my movement analysis class,
Yeah.
or this codified vocabulary.
It's been proven to be a good thing.
Right?
That's true.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Those basketball players, they can't
Yeah.
jump right, you know?
Yeah.
There was a time in the 70s when the entire backfield of the OSU football team was taking Romanian. Just because it was they had to fill a language requirement, and it was a language that was available and was taught very well. So there are some sort of clusters. It's just a matter of identifying the right one.
Let's keep going there. Slides to folks. Let's go past this. Stop. I wanted to mention a little bit about the data commons. So that's an effort if people have interest. Another faculty in residence has come in, Elliot Bendeley, and there'll be a second and potentially third person named. The idea here is putting together the virtual community that will augment the physical building as a convening place to share data sets, to share software tools, and have some sort of collaboration capability. And that is in the design and eventual proof of concept phase right now. If there are people that would like to connect with Elliot, I can help you do that as this is getting off the ground to define what this data commons will be. We're also seeing a great opportunity here for a public-private partnership with Amazon Web Services, who has a large open data platform. And one of the tenets, I guess, while we want this building to be used to bring people together, to solve problems, to have interesting collaborations and intersections going on among people, we didn't want a bunch of server rooms. So we're trying to think as much as possible about how do we do this virtually, bring people together virtually and work with some outside players like Amazon. And another investment in existing faculty and postdocs is we do have a seed grant program, and the advisory board that Elizabeth and David are on, we now have a team of faculty that are going to further define that seed grant program, identify the next areas of investment, so that we have a much broader faculty perspective to the grant program. Next is just an idea back to where folks are coming from. We have arts and sciences, business, engineering, agriculture, all represented again here. And all right, so let's talk a bit about the building with the time that we have left. It's supposed to open in April of 2018, and it's going to have incredible, thanks to Jeff, it's going to have this unbelievable art exhibit installation in the lobby. So let's talk about kind of the layout of the building. So if people are familiar with Pomerene, the main entry right now is the big staircase off of Neal Avenue into the history of art. Well, there's going to be a first floor now down below as this building is renovated. And the entry to the building is over here. So here's Mirror Lake, and there's some old additions that are going to be knocked off, and the entryway for analytics will be right here. And here's where you'll have some of the overall program team. But something that's really nice at this entryway is this shared services space. The idea there was that a faculty member or a researcher might know that the Ohio Supercomputing Center is available, and that there are people in the libraries that know about data management, and OCIO has mobility, it can support you in certain mobility applications to collect data. How can you pull all these people together in this shared services center. So the idea here is to have all these groups, including the Med Center, who would be dealing with personally identifiable information challenges, together to consult. And then perhaps as you're consulting, you realize you're starting to form a project and you want to have a more in-depth discussion, and you can move up to some of the spaces on the third floor that are available for convening and discussion. A lot of the other space on the first floor is academic programming space. Right now, the academic programming offices are dedicated to the undergraduate faculty for the undergraduate program. What I would, and I've been told this is a challenge, but what I would really push for is that we have as many of those analytics courses that we are finding through this scan are offered in this building. Because if you, the best example to me is, there was some comments out of Fisk College that our students don't leave the quad. And I thought, well, that's a shame. What if, for their data visualization course, or their data mining, they had to come over to Pomerene, and now they're running into students from other disciplines. They're walking through the lobby and they see that up in the partner space on the third floor, where we will be doing, we're basically renting space to these companies that I mentioned that are interested in talent. So this company realizes I want to work with these faculty members and postdocs for a while, they set up shop here. Well, you'd have students coming through this building realizing, well, what's that, what are they working on upstairs? I understand the Procter & Gamble is here. I understand the new startup in town, Aber Informatics is here doing some work. So there's this idea of just creating the awareness and allowing the building to help support that by driving as many people in and out. So most of this building does not have office space in it. The office space for the undergraduate program on the first floor is a kind of an anomaly, and then the history of art has offices, but most of the other spaces are temporary rental problem-solving spaces, you to come together and do something and then disperse.
Quick question, will food service still be on the first floor?
Yes.
Okay, that's the things.
Creamery will still be there.
First things first.
And one of the most ambitious areas, and we're getting, Chairman is getting even more interesting artist renderings, is this at the east side of the building. So Mirror Lake is here, and there'll be a 3-story atrium added. So some old additions that were added, tacked onto the building are being knocked down to create this space. One of the art installations being discussed with Jeff is this 3-story display, whether it be projection or LED. And the meeting that Harmony, David, and I were at this week, the idea was, could we constantly drive new visualizations if we're able to get this to this using the university's data? So using a data set about medicine or about history or about, and constantly be driving interesting visualizations to that. So that's one idea of an app installation, and there are others.
You should look at, there's been some recent buildings proposed in the trade center, in New York, but there's actually sort of ticker tape information that's happening on horizontal surfaces underneath, so as you look up, you see that. And this would be yours versus whatever the art that's proposed by the artist through the committee that I'm on. But these surfaces up underneath here are really interesting surfaces to be used where data can run continuously and in a non-traditional way, which I think is important, and so it doesn't feel like a ticker tape because it's on that up, it's on the ceiling. So as you're sitting down there,
Is that the idea, projection?
no, I think it would just be LCD, or would just be any of the millions and one surfaces now that can run data and have things going on. But it could be an interesting thing to propose as part of the building set and what your vision is versus trying to compete or work with the artist. Because that's a different pool of money, and the committee looks at this in the ways that we're looking at, but we're also thinking about this as being, as we always do, as part of the collection of what we have from artists around the campus. And so how that all goes to play might be slightly different and not as specific. The artist is proposing to us, and then we're working with them and selecting from a group versus, I want something to happen here and I want somebody to do that. That would be something that I think, especially with what you're talking about, being data that's here,
Right.
that we're projecting, that could be really interesting. And out of the way of what other artists might be doing in that lobby space, so it could, it would just sort of run as a surface of the architecture.
Okay. There were a number of questions that came up this week at our meeting about the committee and maybe Jenna and I could.
I was gonna say, do you have you been invited to representation for that? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jenna attended one, but
Oh, I
maybe,
think, I think I
Yes.
was there.
I sat with one.
maybe,
Yeah, so let's,
maybe we could just have a separate discussion with you, just to understand a bit more about decision-making and so on, because we're not totally clear. So, first floor, lots of academic programming space, second floor, academic programming, third floor, we basically have these 4 zones that we think about. There's the ideation space, which we have shown here. It has a software lab, a hardware lab, and a visualization lab in it. In terms of what those labs do, a lot of concepts have come out from faculty members, but we are trying to put together a subgroup within the advisory board to further define the use of those spaces and how they can add to and contribute to what's already at the university, because we don't want to say just duplicate something that ACAD has, for example. And then this space, I don't know if anyone's been to the SPAC space downtown, but it's kind of that idea. What do you do to make it an interesting, inviting space where people feel out of their realm, and how do you promote creativity? So you have a lot of ideation, idea is going on there. And that room would be pretty open to also, we've segmented that be open to traffic, because we want students to feel very welcome in this building. And if you have a lot of the undergrads driving through the bottom space, it'd be nice if they know they could go into some of these other spaces too. Then there is, and you can see on the diagrams, there's another space that is faculty and residence offices and postdoc spaces. So the kind of thing that I could see happening there is this, I mentioned the group of people that are coming together around the study of infant mortality, how to improve outcomes and interventions around infant mortality in the state of Ohio. Well, you're bringing together not-for-profits in town, you're bringing together some large outside federal interests, some faculty members from multiple colleges. They might grab part of that room to do work together, and then there's actually another quiet study zone. So we're trying to think of, again, how to make these spaces available to come together and do something, and disperse. And then we have the quiet zone, and the other zone is the corporate rental space. Something else in the building we thought was important was a digital-free zone. So there are some living rooms with no wireless connection. You can go totally digital-free, and we're hoping there too is where people can have these accidental interactions, because maybe you have the people who are working with an insurance company or a farm products company who's suddenly talking about the different things going on that they're trying to solve at Ohio State, and just create these interactions. So everything about the building is we're trying to drive these meeting of both accidental opportunities and orchestrated ways to bring people together to solve these problems. And that will be in a very short time, April of 2018. That's good enough. We can keep going. I've talked about most of these spaces. And finally, maybe, so how will we know we're successful? This was the first swag at trying to say, back to the idea of being good stewards with as much investment that's being made here, that we need to seek some recognizable, some measurable outcomes. And that could be in terms of placing of talent and additional funding to support the research and activities of the university. But the word choice is deliberate in terms of data analytics research with external community and at the local state, working with federal, local, and state. So are our faculty getting more recognized? And this could be another investment in existing faculty in terms of maybe funding for some of the publication support and so on that we can look at. So that's that. that's an overview of translational data analytics.
Another suggestion along the lines of publication support. A lot of, in a lot of disciplines, journals are moving towards open access, where there are costs involved with the publication right from the start. And I'm not sure where OSU stands on that sort of centrally, but setting up some sort of fund for support of open access publications, which I think, because I suspect a lot of the TDA, the journals that would publish TDA stuff are moving towards open access. It seems to be the trend. I don't know what experience others have, but there could be as much as like $1,000 article processing charge up front, because the journal it's not working on a subscription model anymore. It's changing the business model, and so the money has to come from somewhere because there's real costs involved. We all know that. And the idea is that the libraries and universities would provide that kind of support, and some do in Europe. I'm not sure where things stand in the U.S. in general. I'm not sure if OSU has any. Does anyone know if OSU has any?
No, but if
Seems not.
piqued my interest, we've talked to our Allison Armstrong for the libraries on the
Right.
advisory board.
Oh, good.
To her
Yeah,
about it.
because that would be, I guess, the place to turn first. But that would encourage also publication in such outlets.
Right.
And those are outlets that get a lot of visibility and citation because they're electronic and
I think that's a great.
so you might, double you get double your money back, as it were.
Right.
Citation.
Right. Any other comments or questions?
How do we join the TDA listserv?
You are now on the listserv. Right?
You don't have my email.
No,
If you wanna go ahead,
We have data.
Do we self-enroll?
Yeah, so what we can do is if you wanna join listserv right there at the bottom, tda.osu.edu, that goes to Rebecca and I, and we will automatically add you to the listserv. So you can start getting information, our newsletters, funny announcements. And it's easy to remember, tda.osu.edu.
Something else in terms of just, it's a soft thing that you might appreciate it, is every time we become aware of a faculty member doing something with data that is, other people don't know about, we do have a marketing communications person writing these stories, so in addition to working on the podcast. So, if you just would like another outlet to promote your work, we can get the stories on the website. Glad to do that for anybody. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.